Yes? Okay. For a keynote speaker of the event, a person of remarkable achievements and expertise in leadership coaching. Let's extend a warm welcome to Miss Neerja Ganesh. I'm not done, ma'am. So Neerja, ma'am, is a TEDx speaker and a keynote speaker at prestigious conferences and has been invited to various other forums like Lean, NASCOM, Rise World Summit, SWE, Women Tech Network, VMware Nirvana, and many more across the globe to deliver variety of talks on various topics. In her freelance capacity, she also conducts various training programs on leadership and behaviors. Two of her signature programs are Networking for Results and How to Tell Your Story. And she was one of the top 10 finalists for Women Tech Network Speaker for the Year Award 2023. She has also been featured as one of the 40 women who have transformed their life journeys from ordinary to extraordinary in the book Magic 40 at the rate 40. Neerja ma'am strongly believes that mentorship is extremely beneficial for development and growth of individuals. She is a mentor on variety of platforms, including Aspire for Her and Jobs for Her. She switched her career to a workspace of gender diversity. After a successful career in information technology industry, managing large teams, deliverable of IT projects, operational excellence for large banking captives for 25 years. Prior to Aspire for Her, she has also served as a director relationship at National Education Society of Karnataka. Her focus in that role was to work closely with industry veterans to build an industry to connect and ensure the curriculum of institutions is relevant to the current and future industry needs. She's also headed Jobs for Her Foundation, which was set up for a bridge to build gender gaps in India for a period of 18 months. In that role, she built a unique brand and numerous partnerships for community of women who experienced a variety of learning interventions through her workshops, conferences, and trainings. She also coaches people in their career progression path. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Neerja ma'am. Ma'am, the stage is all yours. Please note, after ma'am's session, we'll open for Q&A.
Is it audible? Yeah, I guess it's audible. Thank you for showing up in these large numbers on an afternoon, on a working day. And I don't understand the geography of Mumbai too much, but I do believe that for some of you, it may have been quite a long commute. And still to see the hall full, especially with so many women and some of the men allies, I'm really thrilled. So we're going to be talking about a brand. And let me start by asking, what brand of bags have you carried to this event today? Anyone? Okay. Any other branded bags, clothing, footwear? You want to name some brands for us? The Lenovo bag, all right. None of you have been buying brands? Do we just go and pick up what looks appealing, or do you really go after bags? Shy to speak up? Oh my goodness. I do not think we need to be shy. And that's the first thing I want to tell all the women out here. This question can be answered by the men also. But we need to speak up when there's an opportunity. That's great. Let's speak about it. Why not? Okay, all right. Yes. Okay. And which is that brand? It's curated especially for you. Okay. All right. So let's maybe ask another question, which is which brand of cabs did you come in by? If cabs is a favorite in Mumbai, in Bangalore, we always do cabs. I don't know, in Mumbai, we do that. Did you do an Ola or an Uber or something else? There's a little bit of Uber, but there's a lot of Ola too. So all of us understand brands, right? And then why are we here for one entire hour? Because we're going to be talking about a brand which is called You as in Yourself. Let's spend some time in understanding that. What does this picture bring to your mind? PepsiCo, okay. Role model, okay. A mother, women CEO, an Indian, successful, successful leader. So quite a few things, but we all kind of agree on few things. Indian, women, leader, global leader, a mother. We don't forget that side of Indra Nooyi, right? So for me, um, I kind of look at her as an Indian woman raised in a middle class family who grew to be a global CEO. Some people tell me that they find her to be a mother who became a global leader, while others say that they see her as a leader who's also a mother. From where do these things come? Wikipedia will tell you Indra Nooyi, ex-CEO PepsiCo, she wrote a book. But where do these other aspects to Indra Nooyi come from? Achievements. How do we know the achievements? Upbringing, but how do we get to know about that? Through her book, through her personality, public persona, and the brand that she has built. Who said stories? Right. So see, you get marks only when the right answer that the examiner is expecting comes. But all of you were right. But yeah, there are stories, right? What is personal branding? A brand is nothing without a story. So when I asked you which brand of a bag are you carrying, you didn't tell me the name of the brand, but you had a story behind it. That's right. Ola and Uber, you may have a story as to why you do Uber and not Ola and vice versa. So I always do an Uber because my phone goes a blank when I go into the Ola app. And I've tried to uninstall it, reinstall it, and done a few things. I don't know whether it's the app or the phone or just myself, but I don't want to get it to go into a blank mode. So I do an Uber always. So I have a story for that brand. So a brand is nothing without a story. And what does that story do? Right? The story supports our growth, personal, professional growth. And hence we are all brands. So you're not going to be sitting over here and learning how to create your brand because you all already have a brand, whether you like it or not. Now, whether that is the brand that you want everyone to associate you with is a different question. But there is a brand already present for each of us. And that brand has come through the stories that you might have told or what others have seen, not necessarily on social media, but the people who are around you. And they have always seen that as the story about you and hence that brand. So I want to kind of talk about a few stories. And you will hear a lot of stories because I'm a storyteller. So in that long introduction of mine, and I was thinking, when is it going to stop? I have to cut down my intro, I realized. There was this thing about Jobs for Her Foundation, and then the fact that I now am a freelancer and I do a lot of leadership development sessions and workshops. So when I moved out, hi Madhura. So when I moved out of Jobs for Her Foundation, um, so I was thinking I wanted to do a lot more leadership development workshops. And I didn't have the confidence in myself to say, let me just announce something and people will show up. Now, why will someone show up to a Nirja Ganesh's workshop, right? So I partnered with someone, a friend of mine who's been into this space for a long time. And I said, can we do this together? And he said, sure. And this was pre-COVID, 2019. And he said, see, let's do a few free webinars so that people get to know what Nirja Ganesh does, who she is. And then maybe there'll be some buyers for your sessions. So I said, okay. And we announced the first free webinar on networking. There were 96 registrations for this. Decent number, I must say. Pre-COVID, webinars were not in fashion then. So 96 was a good number. But what surprised me was that all 96 were women. And I was like, how come? Did we put it out that this workshop was only for women? So I went back to look at the poster that had gone out. And the poster said, free webinar. I don't know if free webinar is attended only by women, but I don't know what kind of got only women out there. On 7th July, effective networking, Nirja Ganesh, there's a picture of mine, and there's nothing in that which says only for women. And this had gone out on my personal social media. It had gone out my friends' social media, company social media, and he does a lot of things across. I mean, it's not only women-centric programs that he offers. And still only women registered. And then when I thought about it, I realized that for the 18 months prior to when I decided to do this, when I was with Jobs for Her Foundation, all I did was, here's a workshop for women. It's only for women. Come, women, attend this. That's what went out from my social every day. And so somewhere a brand has got created that if Nirja does something, it's only for women. And hence only women attend it. Whether it's a good thing or bad thing, I don't know. I do want men to come to my sessions, and I'm glad to see some of them here today. But the other realization that I had was I'm partnering with somebody else for this. And nobody from his target audience actually registered. And there were 96 women who came for me. So which means I already had a brand, which attracted some followers. Now I'll tell you another story, which was, I think, in 2021. Suddenly, February 2021, a post came up on LinkedIn, and it said this. I was like, how can someone just do this without asking me, telling me, informing me, taking my permission? All good things they've said, but still, matlab, pata na chahiye na? I was shocked. 21 women who rock in saris, day number 4. So I said, who are they? So they were Kalaneka, that's a sari brand. So I went and looked them up, and I saw, who do I know from Kalaneka on social? And I happened to be connected to the founder, though I didn't know her, Kavya Chaveli. And there was one intern of Kalaneka that I was connected to. So I said, let me start with the intern. And I went to her and I said, hey, I saw this come up. And she was very excited. She said, ma'am, I hope you like it. So I said, yeah, it is nice, but you could have told me about it. And she got really scared. So I did something wrong without telling her. I said, no, I would have given you a better picture with a better sari if you had told me about it. And she said, okay, ma'am, I'll keep this in mind. And I said, okay, now it's already out, can't do much about it, but it's day number 4. So let me look up day 1, 2, 3, because that's already out. And then there's 21 women, which means I can keep looking. And I was following this page. And these were the 21 women who got featured. And I realized they would have gone to a Smriti Irani and taken permission, right? Can I use your picture? They wouldn't have gone to a Vidya Balan, they wouldn't have gone to an Arundhati Bhattacharya and all those other women. And I realized there seems to be something about me being in a sari that is known to Kalaneka. While I've never bought their sari, I don't think anyone from Kalaneka has even sat through my session ever. But people seem to know. And that's a brand that they've kind of kept in mind. And that's why I said that you are not going to be building a brand today. There is already a brand presence for each of us. The thing that we need to reflect upon is this the brand that we all want? So do I want a brand which says Nirja does sessions only for women? Or do I want it to be perceived differently? And how do I further it? How do I ensure this brand presence grows? Because eventually it has to help with our personal and professional growth. So quickly, I think by now everyone understands the definition of personal branding, but it's a widely recognized and largely uniform perception. So when we said Indra Nooyi, largely uniform perception of an Indian woman who rose to be a global leader and a mother, and how she managed both sides of the equation, right? So that's the impression based on their experience, expertise, competencies, which is visible across a particular industry or in a marketplace. So again, a story here. How many of you have heard of this brand, Lululemon? Some of you have heard of Lululemon, right? So they started their technology operations in India in 2021, I think. So 2021 was the COVID year. So they started it, but then when things were slightly better, they really did a formal inauguration. Their CTO came over from Canada and they did a few events. And one of the things, Lululemon is a brand which is highly focused on DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So they wanted to understand how DEI is done in India. What are the things that we do for it? So the company that was helping them put up these events, Ansar, the CMO there, Smita, she knows me. She said, Nirja, they want to do this roundtable conference, inviting the other tech leaders, other D&I leaders, platform owners, etc., to talk about this. Will you moderate this session? I said, sure. It was a roundtable conference. So as I walked in, that was one of the first events, I think, after online. We were doing an in-person event. As I walked into the room, Smita said, the minute I was thinking about who should be the moderator for this, the name that came to my mind is Nirja. And that is what a brand does for you. Who do you recall? Or what do you recall when you talk about a particular brand? And is our brand there? Okay. And spend a few minutes, because people usually get confused between a characteristic and a brand. So you may say, yeah, I'm extremely sincere and that's my brand. Is that a brand? That's a characteristic. So characteristics are the core values and fundamentals that showcase the essence of the brand. And let's just look at some of them. Generosity. If I were to say generosity is a brand characteristic, any brands that come to mind? Tata, okay. Any other? Sorry? Okay. Microsoft, okay. So one of them recently, which comes to my mind, is Cadbury. If you have looked at their ads, especially around the Diwali season, I don't know how many of you followed that, where they were promoting local businesses. through their, ad campaign, which was unique. Who's done that before, right? And if that is something that you value, I'm sure you'll go and buy a Cadbury chocolate, regardless of whether that's your favorite or not, because that brand characteristic appealed to you, right? Empowerment. Any brands come to mind? HUL? Okay, sure. Sugar? Okay. Yeah, we're hearing a lot of women-centric brands. Great. I've put up Nike over there. In terms of, and every brand presence is established through their advertisements and what you see out there, of course, and their work that you may also be seeing. But the way Nike probably promotes their shoes and their apparels, and some of us may buy a Nike because it kind of shows us as an empowered, person. And we are not here to debate, okay? I don't want you to come after this session saying, how could you say this about Nike or what? It's all what we kind of relate to that. I said my Uber Ola story. There's nothing wrong probably with the Ola app. It's just my phone that keeps crashing with it. But there's a story. So I'll quickly go. Competence, one of the brands that does come across Google in terms of the various applications, the use cases that they have thought about. Sophistication, Apple, right? Integrity. Yeah, right. So that's the characteristic of a brand. So I just wanted you to differentiate between a brand and a characteristic. A brand has characteristics, and you get attracted towards a brand because of a certain characteristic. Because eventually, an apparel brand, a bag brand, a cab brand does the same. More or less, the features are similar. But what catches your attention and why you're loyal to one is because of the characteristic. And we need to keep that in mind. Why personal branding? So yes, it helps you stand out from everyone else. It makes you memorable. But this is something which was extremely profound for me. So Meeta Malhotra, who was a partner and director at Ray and Keshwan, it's in India's leading brand consultancy organization. And then she moved out and she founded the Hard Copy. She said, if you take me out of my current business context, who am I? She asked this question about herself when she came out of Ray and Keshwan. My identity had merged with the company's identity. The answer to this question could have been, I'm a nobody. How many of us are able to introduce ourselves as Neerja Ganesh, and then there has to be something following that, right? So I struggled with it. 2017 September, I quit from my corporate job. And for a month, I was attending a lot of conferences, meetups of this kind. And of course, you have to introduce yourself in Neerja Ganesh. And I felt very itchy now. I don't know what to do. Till 2017 September, I had director Capgemini. Very proudly, I would talk about it. Now, suddenly, I don't have a title. So I'm making reasons. I am taking a break. I'm in between jobs. I'm figuring out what to do next. Like, people can understand you're jobless from all these stories that I'm cooking about myself. But we find it so difficult to be saying Neerja Ganesh period full stop. Today, when people call me and they say, okay, Neerja, what is the title I should put when I introduce you or put it on the poster? I say, be as creative as you want to, whatever you feel like. Really doesn't matter to me. Because today, as a freelancer, people reach out to a Neerja Ganesh, right? Not any particular title. And that's what your brand needs to do for you. Are we comfortable? Have we reached that stage? So we did a why, we did a what. Next question is obviously a how. How do, you're not creating, it's already existing. So you need to kind of reflect whether that's what it is and how do I further, this brand presence for myself. obviously needs a lot of extensive self-reflection and introspection to say, how do I want people to perceive me? What is the brand that I want people to know me for? Is it a brand of, oh, Nirja's always in saris and she does a lot of sessions for women? Is that the brand that I want? Or is it something else totally? So you need to sit and reflect on that. And then, and of course, it should not also be like you're selling. Every time I meet someone, say, you know what, I do a lot of sessions on networking. Next time you want, please call me. That's not how you project your brand. It should not appear as a salesperson too, but there has to be that persona of yours which is known and which is also showcased by you. And we'll talk about how do you kind of showcase your brand. You got to be consistent with the brand. You can't be jumping around. I'm sure you're saying that I've got a lot of interests and passions. Now, how do I decide which one? And I want everyone to know about everything. But you can't be everyone and everything. Everyone will not come to you for everything. So which is that one or two or three? And of course, there are ways to further your brand offline as well as online. I mean, people can't forget digital today. That's definitely one of the big ways. But there are also opportunities offline, like we are all meeting here today, and there is opportunity for each of you to showcase and further your personal brand today. You need to give it time. It will not happen overnight. Okay, so it is an investment. So this is something that I have pinched from Karthik Srinivasan. If you follow Karthik Srinivasan, um, he's a personal branding coach. He helps a lot of brands build their brand presence. He does a lot of sessions on personal branding. So he spoke about this at one of the conferences. He said, imagine a house with 100 windows, okay, and all the windows are open. So you're able to see, as you see in the second picture, what's happening inside the house through each of the windows, and each of the windows is giving a certain perspective. If you have all the 100 windows of your house open, what's going to happen? Are you happy? Keeping all 100 windows open and letting the whole world see you from every corner, a certain perspective of you, your house, the elements of the house. Even if you were okay, but when people meet, each of them has a different perspective of you and your house because they have seen it from a different window. And hence, it is important for us to decide which 5 windows, if it was 5, will I keep open and the rest closed. And it can't be different 5 windows every day. These are 5 windows, 3 windows, can't be 10, they're just too many, that you always keep open. So you can have different interests and passions and for you to be known for different things. But then again, it has to be consistent throughout and 1, 2, 3. It can't be seasonal. It is that you may be building on it year on year, but it has to. So as an example, maybe a couple of years ago, there was a startup who's working in the space of women's health, women's menstrual health. They came to me and they said, we're doing this. We would like someone like you to be on our platform. We would like you to be on webinars and speak about, because obviously you look at me, you know that I'm in that age of menopause and all the problems that are associated with that. We want you to come and experience our product and services and also speak about it. So we know influencers who kind of talk about certain products. So will you do this for us? Now it is a good cause for sure. I mean, it needs to be talked about. People need to be aware of it. It usually kind of gets brushed under the carpet. But I said, I am not someone who does that. People know me as someone who does work in the space of women, but it is more in terms of women and careers and growth. Women's health is not something, despite the fact that it is one definite element in her growth, in her career growth, but that's not what I focus on and work on. So in both ways, one for you in your platform to get the credibility, I don't think it will, because it'll say, oh, Nirja coming and speaking about this, kya ho gaya? Maybe she's really going through some troubled times. Okay. And secondly, it's not going to do some good to my own branding. So, okay, she's everywhere. इसने पैसा दे दिया, somebody paid her something, she's going speaking about this, tomorrow it'll be a third thing. So it has to be consistent, and hence the introspection to say, what do you want people to remember you for and recall you for and invite you to certain opportunities. Eventually, it's growth that we are all after, right? And hence it takes time, the reflection and the building of it. Now, how do we build it? When I say build, please remember it's not from zero, it's kind of from wherever you are to further it within and outside the organization. Both ways it is important. Coffee talks. How many of us walk up to a different pantry every day? And when we do go to the coffee pantry, we make use of that time to interact with the people who are having coffee there and in some ways present ourselves. Do we? How many of you, instead of 11 a.m. coffee, say today I'll do it at 10 a.m. because there's going to be a different crowd at that pantry? Or how many of us will visit a different pantry? Instead of the right wing, go to the left wing. Networking meetups, I'm so glad to see so many of you over here. But how often do we do that? Do we calendarize it and do we show up? Team meetings are an opportunity to further our brand. Town halls, floor walks. Either you have leaders who are walking the floor and say hello to the person and kind of use that opportunity to introduce yourselves, showcase your brand. Or you could be going around, the floor and meeting a different set of people and using that opportunity. Dining hall, how many of us sit at a different table and with different people? The list is exhaustive, which means what? Any and every moment, everywhere is an opportunity to build the visibility so you don't have to wait for something or some event or some moment. So again, a story. So when I was at ANZ, so I was at ANZ for 16 years, managing the technology there. I was heading their Asia Pacific retail technology space for a few years, and we had a new MD who joined. He came from Australia. And when new leaders come, um, you have them meet and greet. So of course, there'll be a large town hall where something like this, everyone hears from the MD. But there'll be smaller meetups because if you need to get to know people better, then you have smaller meetups. So there was this meetup I was in the mid-management then, for women leaders who were identified as high potential leaders. So we were about 15 of us, and Fred was invited to address us and get to know us better. Of course, in those days, I didn't know much about branding and networking, etc. So when my chance came, I said, Neerja Ganesh, heading the Asia Pacific Retail Technology, been in ANZ for whatever number of years. And then I let it pass and everybody introduced and there was all the conversation. Good samosas and coffee, went back to work. After a few days, I saw an email from Fred, which read, the first line said, if anyone can do anything about this, it is Neerja Ganesh. And I said, okay, what is this? Let me look at it. So I went down that email chain. The last one originated from PNG, Papua New Guinea. You can see it on the small Pacific island, Papua New Guinea, a man there. So ANZ was running something called as a breakout fest, like a India's Got Talent kind of thing. So ANZ's Got Talent. They used to call it breakout. Anyone from ANZ here? But what happened was, to be able to apply for it, you have to kind of put your application on an app or on a website with the audio piece, video piece, or whatever you are applying for. You wanted to showcase your music, you want to showcase your dance, your art, you'd apply. This man was trying to put his input into the platform, and it was not allowing him to submit. So he had written to the CEO of Papua New Guinea, ANZ and they obviously will reach out to technology, which is India. And it had come to Fred. And Fred said, if anyone can fix it, it is Neerja. And I said, how? Like, I probably didn't even know that there was a breakout fest happening because I'm not talented in any way. I don't participate in all of this. And why me? Like, I don't even know what this platform is. But if Fred is telling you this, You don't go and say, why me and not me, right? And there was no time because the next day the applications were getting closed, submissions were getting closed. So I went around, I found who's the platform owner, stood with him the whole night to get it fixed. And next morning, this person sent a thank you mail, which came all the way from Fred to me because he was able to submit. Now, I never got the guts to ask Fred, why me? But I reflected on this. Why would he have said, if anyone can fix this, it is Neerja? One is that if Fred was told, here is a group of 15 leaders, women leaders, who are the future leaders for ANZ, he would have said, why these 15 and not those 15? For sure, he wouldn't have walked into a room without asking why them. So the person who was coordinating would have informed Fred about XYZ, this is the reason. Neerja, this is the reason. And one of the things that people know about Neerja is that she gets things done. Anywhere, it doesn't have to be work, home, community, anywhere, I get things done. It's a USP that I have. So maybe they told him that. And he must have said, okay, let's see if she can get this done. And secondly, Asia Pacific. Though it was retail that I was heading, PNG is Asia Pacific, theek hai. Just do the, maths, let's get Neerja. And maybe he was testing out. So if they think she can get things done, let's see if she can get this done. If you were to ask me, was it really worthwhile? I spent a whole night trying to get this thing fixed. I don't think I have spent the whole night trying to get my retail issues also fixed. I would have just gotten my team to fix it and give me updates. So it's a waste. Was it a waste? How would it have helped? Absolutely. So with ANZ growing in Bangalore, I'm sure they would have been putting new projects and somebody would have said, I want to start this vertical in Bangalore. We need a leader for it, Fred. Where should we go? Should we hire? Do you have someone? And Fred would have said, you know what, Neerja, she gets things done. I think you should ask her. You should speak to her. That's how you get your opportunities. It's how your brand works for you. You need to do good work. You need to also showcase it in every way possible so that people know this is the person to reach out to for the brand, for that particular requirement. Now, how do you create opportunities? While I said coffee talks, dining tables, etc., you show up there. How many of us feel comfortable to start talking about, I do this, I've done this, I'm exceptional at this? How many of us? Show of hands. How many of us are very comfortable in saying, I'm good at this? Fantastic. And the others? We're thinking our neighbor is going to tell. Neighbor kyun bolega hamare bare mein? Right? So we have to create opportunities and activities, opportunities to showcase our brand. And one is participate in events. Paul spoke about SWE. Here is an opportunity in Mumbai for you because SWE is going to really get very active, isn't it, Kanjari? And they will need people. Start participating, start contributing. So when somebody introduces, doesn't have to be as lamba chauda as my introduction, but even one line to say X and Y is so and so. She does this, so she's great at content. I got introduced to the person who's done the poster for today's event. Good enough, right? That's kind of creating an opportunity for yourselves to showcase the brand. So attend as many webinars, seminars, workshops, mentoring. We spoke about mentoring also. Can you be a mentor? That's an opportunity for you to further your brand. Because if you are a mentor on some platform, it's going to be mentioned on that website. You have the opportunity to speak about it. Your mentee will speak about it. Don't think about how many people and what level of people. It doesn't matter. It's an investment over a period of time. It grows. Be present at networking events, organize networking events, volunteer, because all these opportunities get you to the stage, get your name to be introduced, get your name to be put up on those posters and websites. And then when somebody Googles, we will go into the online piece also, it will come up. This person is a public speaker. This person is a mentor. So here I will give another story. And when I narrate stories, I'm not expecting it to be a cookie cutter method. Ki, okay, Nirja tried this, I'm going to try it. But this is only to trigger your thinking, to say, okay, I can do something. And it is all in your hands. So how many of you have heard of Apurva Purohit? She is the ex-president of the Jagran Prakashan Group. Now she runs something called as Azol. I think it is a brand, should be known well in Maharashtra. She's written 2 books, phenomenal books. Lady, You're Not a Man. And the second book was Lady, You're the Boss. So there's a women-centric platform called as Women's Web who asked me to review her second book, Lady, You're the Boss. Now, I'm not an author myself. My book is sitting there yet to be completed. I'm not a book reviewer. I won't go into the story of why they came to me to review the book. But the point I'm trying to make is that never say no to any opportunity. I said, okay. And then I figured out how to do book reviews. Now, this book is awesome. So I read it. And then, of course, I put out the book review. So what happens when you're doing this? Of course, Apurva gets to know that, I am doing a review because it's out there. I'm also part of another platform called as Bangalore Chamber of Industries and Commerce, and they have many wings. One of them is the women's empowerment wing. And the new chairperson had taken over and she was saying, what shall we do different this year? We don't want the usual conferences, something hatke karna chahiye. So this book was on my mind. It's such a powerful book. So I said, why don't we give, this book to all our member companies? Get their women to read this book. And then we'll invite Apurva for, half a day session or something. Let the women speak about the book and the concepts and the stories that she's writing. I think that's going to be something very different and unique, and everyone loved it. So they said, okay, how do we get Apurva? So I said, see, because I'm connected to her on LinkedIn, because I reviewed her book, I will ask her. This is 2019. So I asked her and she said, oh, sure, I'm going to be in Bangalore in November. I can come and, give the talk. So we organized, the books went out, and the event like this was hosted. Now, when such events happen, you will have people who will kind of inaugurate it and then introduce, and then a vote of thanks, etc. And BCIC has huge, lineage. So starting from the president of BCIC to this women's empowerment wing chairperson, etc. But for some reason, they said, Nirja, do you want to introduce Apurva? Maybe because I had given the idea and I had gotten her. I said, okay. Now, what does introduction mean? What's the job? Read out the bio. And Apurva's EA had sent me the intro and said, word to word, you will read it as it is. No preposition change, no nothing change. This is what you have to read. Not the best of jobs, not very exciting. But I said, okay, I never say no to any opportunities because you don't know what comes out of it. So I took that opportunity. And when Apurva came in, I went to her and I said, can I read a little bit from your book after I introduce you? She said, my book, if you're going to read, why will I say no? So I said, okay. So this is how I started the introduction by saying, this book, when I read it, every chapter resonated with me. I felt as if Apurva is writing my story. And it is exactly like that. If you read it, you will feel that it is your story. Because every woman goes through what she's written in that. For example, the chapter on imposter syndrome. So there's a chapter on imposter syndrome. And I gave a story about how I dealt with imposter syndrome when MIT Sloan asked me to be a jury member for the Global Innovation Challenge. And I said, what have I done innovative in my life for me to be a jury member? The imposter is telling me. But then I said how I calmed it down, etc. And I took that opportunity. Then I read Apurva's intro. And then I read a piece from the book, which was a chapter, Midlife Crisis. Okay. So she talks about how women go about their life till they reach that stage when they become empty nesters, and then they reflect and say, what did I do with my life? Because all your life you're running behind, okay, the kids and the husband and the work, etc. And one fine day, suddenly there is emptiness. And all your interests and passions have been kind of left behind. So she was talking about that. And she was narrating it with the story of a lady, her friend, who used to be, very interested in wearing saris and had accumulated kanjivarams, etc., but no time to wear them because you're always jet setting and running. And now at this age, when after the children have flown out of the nest, she decides, I'm going to use each of these saris. Every day she comes to the office wearing one of those kanjivarams. And Apurva writes beautifully. She speaks beautifully. She says, she used to come into the office every day like a Rekha. All of us know the actress Rekha, like a Rekha dressed up for the Filmfare Awards. We all can imagine that, right? And then she says, the lady decides, this is my life now. I'm going to live my life the way I want. And then the last line of that chapter says, which Kanjivaram are you going to be wearing today? So in a way, she's trying to say, what is your passion? What are you going to be doing today? So I read this. Which Kanjivaram are you going to be wearing today? And I tell Apurva, I decided to wear this Kanjivaram today. I had worn a Kanjivaram that day. And I'm sure everyone was thinking, for one 30-second introduction, she's come in a Kanjivaram. But how it, kind of stitched together. So what all did I do with this? Sitting over there, people are thinking she's come to introduce Apurva, but I put in the fact that, I was on the jury of MIT Sloan's Innovation Challenge. I pushed across a brand. And then I made use of that introduction opportunity. Apurva sitting over there said, when I invited her, please come. She said, I don't want to get up. I want to keep listening to you. So I built a powerful connection with her and, my brand presence. So create opportunities to showcase your brand in everything small or big. Nobody else is going to do that for you. Of course, online is a big thing. How many of us are on social media? If you're not on social, you don't live on this planet, right? And there are different social media. I'm not going to ask you on this or not. LinkedIn for sure. It is a professional platform. You got to be on it. What do you use LinkedIn for? Just sitting on LinkedIn doesn't help. Yeah. You need to do a bit. You need to kind of connect with people, build your network. You need to use it to showcase your thought leadership, which is nothing but building your or showcasing and furthering your brand. So my favorite pastime is Googling my name. So when I Google my name, every time something different comes up. But it brings in a lot because I've had the opportunities. I have never said no. Madhura will say, "Ye wala model moderate karegi." Yes, pata nahi kaise, but I will do it. Why not? One, because I have a passion. I know that when I do something, it creates an impact. Even if on one person it is okay, that one person will go and do a few other things. It's a ripple effect. Bottom line, I build my brand. There's one video which will appear on Google because of that. Okay, so it is important for us to brand ourselves online, but it is also important for us to keep it in, because everything that you do online leaves a digital footprint. So Google yourselves, not now, later, and see what comes up. And are you happy with what comes up? And are you really astonished with what is coming up? If Google is telling something which you really didn't want the world to know, then you know what you need to take off. So it is important for us to be on social, but also decide what all platforms and what access you want to give to others on what platform. You don't have to give access to everybody on every platform. So if you went on a beach holiday, do you want your entire professional network to know and what you did there? Because you're putting your pictures on Insta or on Facebook. So use the privacy settings on those platforms in such a way that the rest of the world doesn't get to know. But on LinkedIn, let the whole world know, because you want to further your professional brand. And today, I don't know how some of you may be looking out for jobs. Some of you may be looking out for consulting opportunities. When somebody says, here is Neerja, the first thing they will do is Google your name. Say, okay, let's see what has she done. And sometimes what comes up may be enough for them to cross you out of that list. So I'm not scaring you. This is a necessary evil, but be careful about it. Check your privacy settings. Exercise your judgment when you're posting on social. One of the things to remember is what's your voice? Because we all write on social platforms, definitely on LinkedIn. But even that, for example, me being in a sari without my knowledge seems to have created a brand. So there's a lot of unspoken also that happens, which is adding to your brand image. So do you want to sound controversial? If that's what you want your voice to be, perfectly fine. But the content that you write kind of also gives that picture, or she's the controversial woman. Always, she's going to stir up a controversy. Is that what you want to? If you want to, go ahead. But the language, the tonality, the topics that you choose, do you want to be known as highly opinionated? So your goals determine what kind of content you put out and how you put it out. So it is important to have a voice, but also what is that voice that will determine. So for example, if you are regular on LinkedIn, you would see these badges that come up. LinkedIn Top Voice. And now there's a new badge, LinkedIn Top Voice, Community Voice. So you can go and look them up. So Top Voices, of course, is people who are very active on LinkedIn and they have a voice on a range of topics. Community Voice is much more specific. So there is a community voice. I think I have some examples here. I'll come to that. Of course, be consistent. I already spoke about anything online contributes to your personal brand. Yeah. If you're just going to write something somewhere and keep it hidden, it's not going to attract any attention. So it needs to be showcased. Actively promote yourselves. And I love this cartoon. If you can really read what is there, it says, I've been playing guitar in the basement for the last 30 years. Somebody will call me to become a part of the brand. It's not going to happen. Yeah. So just writing a blog is not going to get you viewership, right? So ensure that you write on guest blog sites, including social, but also promote it via your social media handles. LinkedIn for sure. I mean, it's definitely something that you need to do. For example, you can apply for awards. SWE has so many opportunities through their various webinars, through the vLocal. You could be submitting papers. You could be, Paul was telling me about the struggles that they have. Some 300 papers come in and they need reviewers for that. That's an opportunity for you. There are a lot of awards that you could apply for. I'm not asking you to pay up and apply for awards, but there are a lot of awards that are out there which you can nominate yourselves for. That's also an opportunity for you to get noticed. So if you see the first picture out there, it's talking about Step In Forum. They had some testers blogathon contest and the top 10 blogs. Somebody's kind of done it for you because you submitted a blog entry and you came up in the top 10. The Women Tech Network Speaker of the Year. I mean, that's exceptional branding, I would guess, for myself and my daughter, that is, because we did a talk together last year. Amongst all the global leaders, I mean, there's 2 Indian faces out there. So I think it's a good branding, even if it's just top 10. We didn't make it to the top 3. I have the Top Voice APAC on a Thinkers 360 platform. So find opportunities. There is no dearth of platforms online today. But you need to make that effort to be there. Go out there and start promoting yourselves. This is what I was talking about, the LinkedIn Top Voices. I've purposely picked up 2 very young voices out there. Soumya Singh, she's a software engineer. She's probably 2 years into the industry. She works at Red Hat. Look at the number of followers she has, 156,855 followers. You should go and look at the content that she does. It's hugely, for the young crowd, college students in terms of technology, careers, resumes, interviewing, technical topics, etc. This is a LinkedIn Top Voice. So what I'm trying to say is there's no age, there's no industry, restriction on this. You want to, you can be. The only thing I will give you as a word of caution is please check your organization's do's and don'ts when you are speaking at public forums, including putting out content on social. There are certain do's and don'ts. As long as you don't violate those policies, you're speaking about your own, thought leadership. But do that check before you start, going out on public platforms and speaking or writing. Radhika Bajoria, she is also a young. I know of her from the Aspire for Her days when she was in college and she was one of the core team members, and she's today a LinkedIn top voice. And the kind of work that she does is out there. This is a community voice that I was talking about. Here, if you see Shweta Shivaraman, she's got 2 badges, stress management and mindfulness. So she is known on LinkedIn for these 2 voices that she speaks about, or topics that she speaks about. Mindfulness. And so there are many, many categories. If you wish, you can go and find out all the categories that are there and what is your brand? What do you want to be known for? And again, I'm picking up someone here, Kamalika Podar. So she's a LinkedIn top voice. She became a LinkedIn top voice when she was with Axis Bank. And what she used to talk about was growth strategies for Axis Bank's cards business. And she applied the same analytical mindset to her posts. So obviously, she would have got an okay in terms of what she can put out there. The reason I'm putting out these is that sometimes we may think, oh, I'm working, this is a role that I have in this company. I don't think it gives me an opportunity to go all out there and showcase myself. No, it is possible. What are the key fundamentals to keep in mind? Consistency and the 1 or 2 things that you want to, the 2 windows that you want to open up to the rest of the world. If you're not a brand, you are a commodity. And do we want to be a commodity? Maybe in some, but definitely 1 or 2 areas. I think we want to have our niche because all of us are here to grow ourselves as a person and as a professional. So what is that brand? Thank you. And I would love to stay connected with you. That's my LinkedIn. And happy to take questions. I don't know how we're doing for time today.
Thank you, ma'am. This is a fantastic session on personal branding. Uh, so branding comes when you do networking, right? And sometimes perception comes that, especially about the women, that the women, she's doing overdoing it, right? So how to work on that perception that you are not overdoing it, but you are promoting yourself, and these perceptions are very common in the corporate which we hear. So how to handle those kind of challenges?
To hear me, right? How does it matter if there is a perception about you?
It matters if your bosses take it in a wrong way because it's a perception. Then maybe it is not good for your career. So yeah.
So in that case, and that's why I have told you, especially for those of you who are working in corporate setups, that you could be governed by certain rules. Do check with them. But as long as it is not hindering the organization's, brand, and very clearly it is a thought leadership that you are projecting, which even your organization is aligned to, I don't think there should be an issue. Overdoing, underdoing is something that you discuss with the manager if required. To say that I will put out 2 posts in a week, I'll put out 1 post in a week, and it's going to happen at my personal time. It is not going to happen sitting in the office. Beyond that, people can keep thinking. It's always there. कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना. That will always be there. I think we just need to kind of shut that out. But yes, if it is the manager, then I think you need to take the person in confidence to say, this is the reason I do want to kind of establish my brand presence, which also helps the company. Because if I am known as a leader in this space, then you get those opportunities to kind of showcase your organization at events. So that's also a added advantage for the organization to say, we have a leader, especially a woman leader, who's so well known in the industry in this space. So beyond that, I think stop bothering about what is she going to think, what is he going to think. People will keep thinking. You're doing it because you have a particular vision for yourselves. So do it to align that.
Related to that, how to encourage women to do more networking internally? I think that's still a challenge. We are doing within our organization a lot of events. We are providing a platform. We have a women inclusion network, but I think it's very difficult to bring women even on those platforms internally. So how to encourage, motivate them?
Mindset. And this afternoon, we were talking about the mindset that women have. They prioritize everything else above possibly themselves. And they need to understand the value that that provides. So unless and until someone understands what's in it for me, people are not going to do it. And I think it's important for them to understand the what's in it with me. So when I do, talks on networking, or when I do workshops on networking, I first start with talking about influencing. Because eventually, what are we trying to do in organizations? We are trying to influence outcomes. Either we are in roles that help us to influence certain outcomes, or even otherwise, you are at tables where you can use your voice to influence a particular outcome. And as women, you need to, because you are that diversity voice. So if they understand that it is important to network, it's important to build a brand because it enables that voice and that influence to happen, they will definitely come for it. So I think the what's in it for them is most important. So see if that's getting missed. Yeah, sure. You need a mic.
Thank you, Neeraja, ma'am. Continuing to Nimisha, right? Yeah, Nimisha's question is, uh, like I'm from down south. I'm just relating for an example. I'm from down south, a very conservative way of orthodox way of upbringing, where it is being taught by the parents, like talking about yourself. It means you're not a humble person. You're speaking a lot about me, about yourself. So such baggages do carry with us because of the upbringing of the culture. So when we come to a corporate, and even though the person would have achieved so much heights, but still, when, okay, I wanted to talk about myself, but immediately there is a voice coming in front of my mother say, like, don't talk about yourself because people will think you're very, you're very arrogant or those things. So you told about mindset, but there are some baggage but just changing thanks to you. I want to specially thank you because your mothers all should become like where you should encourage kids to speak up. So how to remove that baggage and come out of it?
Sure. So one, I think all of us have a responsibility as a parent, as a sibling, that we don't do this to our children and to our friends and family, because we know the importance of it. That's one. Second, I again go back to, so what? So what if somebody thinks of you that way? If you know what your reasons for doing something is, as long as you get an opportunity to talk about it to the other person, and only if the other person has meaning in your life, not to the rest of the world, then you sit down and have that conversation. And it's again an opportunity to influence that other person. But beyond that, as long as you are clear, you go about doing it. So even it's not that, today I have reached 30,000 limit on LinkedIn. I can't accept any new LinkedIn, request because I've hit that. But there was a time in 2016 when I was not even on LinkedIn, 2016, so 7 years ago. I was already 24 years into my corporate career. And when I started, because somebody said it's a good platform, because I was looking out for opportunities, they said, okay, build a LinkedIn profile. I never accepted requests from people who I've never worked with. What's the use of being on a platform like that if you're only, kind of networking with people that you have worked with earlier? And that transformation came up, when I went to one of the conferences and I realized that my thoughts are so limited. because I'm always looking at banking conferences, technology conferences, and you see the same people at those conferences, the same speakers again and again. You're a frog in the well. So from then, because I wanted to change my thought process, I said, I'm going to start connecting with people who are very different on LinkedIn. And from that journey of slowly following people, then connecting with people, then attending events and conferences and furthering that, I've reached a stage today where I almost don't care in a positive way, right? So if someone has a question, I will answer. If someone really is worried about it, and if that person is of significance in my life, I'll sit down and explain. But after that, I really don't, because it's my personal reason for my own personal growth. And the other thing is, beyond your own personal, you don't know how it is impacting the other person who's reading that post. So many people who I don't know, because they read my posts on LinkedIn, have come to me and said it's made such a difference in their lives. Why not?
Just adding a point to what Lavanya said, I think it's also a very, very personal choice. There are people who are aware of all the benefits, all the goods this will do, but may choose to still be silent and very internally focused.
Sure.
Completely depends on what joy it brings you. You know, you may want to be talking about your organization doing some great work. You may want to be out there as a thought leader, or they would be quiet workers or like, let my work speak, and I'm very internally focused. So it's okay. I've tried to influence people to be there, and then I've realized they are not interested, and they are creating their own brands outside of social media.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, that's okay. What I was trying to say is that there is no way out. If you realize that if you want to grow, then this is a very important part of your growth, because it is a highly competitive world today. And there are just too many. So for example, if I say I am a DEI expert and I do leadership training sessions, there'll be 1,000 like me. So why Nirja? Why is Nirja Ganesh invited to do this session today all the way from Bangalore? Couldn't you have found someone from Mumbai? Because there's a brand. And that helps my career. And it impacts the minds of so many. So those who don't want to, that's a different thing. But if you are really keen on growing your careers, then you need to know that this is a very important aspect. Thank you. Any other questions? Comments, observations? Debate points? Yeah, there is one question, I think.
A couple of times you emphasized that you never say no to any opportunity.
Yeah.
While there was an opportunity when you were requested to talk about women's health, didn't you think in that way that maybe there could be a different angle to it? You thought the other way. So
Yeah.
how do you judge such things?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, you're right in saying I never say no. There will be a lot of voices in your head that will come, starting from the imposter, to say, am I even qualified for that? And why me, etc. And then you will evaluate. If you evaluate, and the only reason which comes out of it is that I don't think I'm qualified enough. For example, when I gave the story of being on the jury of MIT's Global Innovation Challenge, the question that came to me was, what have you done innovative in your life that you can actually judge somebody's innovation? Okay. But then I quietened it down and saying that I'm not the only person. When it's a jury, there are 20 other people. Even if I mess it up, and that's what we are worried about, right? If I get onto this project and I'm not fully qualified, I may mess it up. But there are others to kind of, hold it for you. There are 19 other. If I really do it very wrongly, it is not going to, the average of all the 20 will still give it to the right person only. And of course, after that, I'll go and do a lot of reading up to say, okay, what is innovation? How do you evaluate an innovation? How do you even, score to say you are the, most innovative organization or, startup or an app or an individual? Okay, so if it is about competence, then I kind of say, forget it, I will go for it. But if it is about what all, I mean, you can't be doing 100 things. Yes, with going on to the women's health platform will help in some ways further my brand, but is that the brand that I want? I don't want that brand. Because what was it going to give me? It wasn't giving me anything other than the fact that I probably will become an influencer of sorts. It could impact women in some way because they're hearing it from me. But I know for sure that the women who really follow me don't come to me for that. They come to me for something else. And hence, I don't think it's going to create that impact also. So it is the evaluation of, do I want to do this from a branding perspective, from a career perspective, from a work perspective. That's not what I want to be, but I want to be in other spaces. So I didn't say no to doing a book review. I wouldn't say no to, being on the jury. I wouldn't say no to actually drive a lot of projects on Aspire for. Madhura's just walked out of this room, but when she approaches me and saying there is this particular initiative, I may never have done that in my life before, but if I know that I have some strengths to carry it out and it's going to have a kind of impact that aligns with my passion and purpose, I'll put up my hand for that. Any more? Otherwise, I think we should pass it to the next.
Thank you, ma'am, for the very uh, detailed session. So I just have a very small question. You mentioned give it time, it's an investment. So for me, investment I can see as a certifications, which I want to pursue, may enhance my career, my resume. What other kind of investments you are referring here? I want to know.
So all of that I said, which is about creating opportunities to further your brand, certifications, etc., are you're upskilling yourselves, right? Now you're already upskilled. How do you let the whole world know that you have the skill? That is the building of the brand. That is the furthering of your brand presence. So when I say investment, the investment is that you're kind of talking about it on forums, you're going to write about it on forums, etc. And over a period of time, people, for example, what is that one certification that you did recently?
I have just done a Six Sigma Black Belt.
So if someone wants a Six Sigma Black Belt expert on that project, they need to, and what's your name?
My name is Garima Sharma.
Garima Sharma is the name that should pop up. That is the investment. Doing the course is one. But how does the world know that Garima Sharma is a certified Six Sigma Black Belt? That is the branding that you need to use these opportunities, and that takes time. And that can't be just every day putting on LinkedIn, I've got a certificate, I've got a certificate, I've got a certificate. Doesn't help. That's why I said create those opportunities in different ways to showcase.
Okay.
You're not directly going and saying, I'm coming on stage saying, you know what, I recently got a certificate. No, that is selling. But in subtle ways, like I introduced myself and the opportunity to introduce Apurva came. In subtle ways, how do you make use of any platform to leave the message that I am accomplished in this, whatever that this is, the brand that you want them to remember you for.
Thanks.
He has a question.
To add on to your point, at an initial level to create a brand, obviously you need to start from some initial phase, right? And from that initial phase, the very initial phase will be the selling of your brand. So then how do you take up that in terms of selling or in terms of branding? You get my point?
So you're saying that there will be a starting point, right?
While there will be a starting point, it will initially be as a selling point only, right?
Not necessary. So there's a subtle difference. So, for example, I narrated many stories about myself today. Did it sound like selling? Or did it sound like, she used this opportunity to, get her point across?
No, it didn't sound like selling, but my point is at a very initial stage for me, like
it will not. If you use it in a, in the way, the subtle way of ensuring. So if you are at a coffee, chat, okay, and in the context of that discussion, if you happen to put across a point, because they're talking about a problem, the people who are at the coffee talking about a problem that's bothering them, and they're trying very hard to resolve it. And you have probably come across that in your past project, and you kind of, dealt with it very, very well. Then in that context of that conversation, you say, how about this? And, I actually, had an opportunity. I was also in the same dilemma like you, but this is what I did. And this is the outcome that came. You're not selling anything. You're helping them. But you left them with a message that I'm an expert in these kinds of problems. And they may call you back to say, we need your help in our project. So it is contextual. And hence I said, make use of every opportunity that you get to ensure that your brand presence is felt. So when I introduced Apurva Purohit, I didn't have to tell that I went through imposter syndrome. But I made use of that opportunity because it was in the context of her book, and the book had a chapter on imposter syndrome. And through that, I pushed across the message that, hey, I dealt with my imposter syndrome when I got the opportunity to be on MIT Sloan's jury. That's why I said you have to become very creative with that. How do you push across your brand? That's clear. I know this is a more deeper subject. That's where the sessions around storytelling for personal branding I do, because stories are really, really powerful instead of, just kind of, and hence, even when you write on LinkedIn, if you're just saying, I got my certificate, how many of them are going to stop by at your post and say, congratulations? Because every other day, there are thousands of people who are getting certified. Why will I come and say anything, and why will I even bother to remember it? But if the same post is written with some backstory to say, why did I do this certificate? Because there was a issue in the past, and hence to resolve that and to get better at that, you went through this certification and now you're better equipped. The way you word your post, people will come and stand by and they will listen to you. It is, you have to use the context and slip it in. Not easy, doesn't happen overnight, but you'll get there. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Manija ma'am. I'm sure we all are thinking now, which are those 2 or 3 windows that we have to keep open, and what voice we want to choose. That is one definitely. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. So as we have come to a closure and we are wrapping this session, let's take a moment to celebrate the collective achievements of Sweet team and also Burns and McDonald team. And most importantly, our speaker, Neerja ma'am. Now I request Parul, our CAO, to please come on the stage and say a few words.
That's what she told me. But yes, I am sure she literally didn't mean 1 minute. She meant Indian Standard Time of 1 minute. And that's right. Fantastic. Not, but I won't take, we want you all to network and know each other rather than knowing me. But thank you all for this being present here. This is very, very important to us. And I can't thank Paul and SWE team for making it partner, making us partner in your journey for Mumbai chapter. And I think we all are hearing name like Khanjari and Apurva multiple times, but I'm not sure whether you know the faces and the names. So let's get them here on stage. You need to see the faces and relate the names to the faces. Come here, Apurva. Come here, Khanjari. I do remember they going to Bangalore SWE session, and then they came coming back and talking to me about it and telling, "Kuch to karna padega. This doesn't really work here. We have to have something and some involvement with SWE and Mumbai chapter. How do we do it?" And that's how we reached out to Paul and talked about it. And Khanjari and Apurva, thank you so much. We really appreciate all the efforts you have taken to make this possible. And I will only say a couple of things here. One is, Neerja, thank you so much. I think many people do not talk about personal brand. They don't want to talk about personal brand because they feel it comes across as a arrogance. And I will take one step ahead. Create own personal brand and help somebody to create their brand. Just not leave it at yourself. Create one person, help them to create their own brand. So somebody tells me leadership, female leadership, women leadership, how are we going to get seat on the table? I said, it's okay. If we do not get seat on the table, let's have a folding chair and we'll sit there, right? Become the support system, create and help to carry that folding chair for somebody to be on the seat and on the table. That's it from my side. Thank you. I think I took only 1 minute. Thank you so much for joining here.
Thank you, Parul, Apurva, and Khanjiri. Last but not the least, to express our heartfelt appreciation, we have token of gratitude for Nija Man and Paul. I request Chad and Parul to please come on the stage. I request Nirja Man and Paul to please come on the stage and accept this token of gratitude. Thank you everyone. Last but not the least, please request you all. Oh, now is the moment that we all have been eagerly waiting for. Yes?